Gavin Mackay is from Mackay Farming Group. He's a director of the family farm. They're based in Tully in far north Queensland. It was established 75 years ago and has become the largest banana producer in Australia. They have diversified into sugarcane and beef and more recently red papaya and avocados. Being able to read the tea leaves of the disease spread of tropical race 4, the Mackays set up biosecurity measures and the worst happened. So the outbreak of Panama was in 2017, and it's a fascinating tale that he's going to regale us with, how the business dealt with the limitation of its spread, or to limit its spread. And for that, they were recognised as Biosecurity Farmer of the Year in 2018. So please make Gavin Mackay welcome.
Okay, thank you for inviting me here to speak today on biosecurity. Biosecurity is a very important part of farming, I think. It's not always addressed, or it might be addressed, but it's not always done. So most people have got to have a reason for biosecurity to implement it. That's our reason. So we're fourth generation farming family, and on the third generation. And yeah, we want to protect our farm for the future generations. So that makes it a bit easier to implement and understand what we want to do. My grandfather started growing bananas in the Tully region 75 years ago when he was one of the first in the region. So yeah, it was a pretty difficult time. He'd come there to cut sugarcane for a few seasons beforehand, and just come from the northern New South Wales region where they grew bananas, and thought it would be a good place to grow bananas and a new start. Unfortunately, there was no infrastructure there at the time, so everything he did was quite difficult, but he built that, and it came as he went along. So this is a picture of one of our farms. It's in the top of the Tully Valley, so it's boundary on one side's World Heritage, boundary on the other side's the Tully River, no top neighbour, and just one on the bottom. So you really think a place like that, you wouldn't need biosecurity. You know, it's tucked right up, it's a no-through road, nothing can really get there. So probably the last place you'd think you'd have to protect. It's nearly protected naturally. So yeah, Panama TR4 is a disease that was found in bananas in the Northern Territory. It's a disease that's uncontrollable. It kills bananas, and you cannot grow bananas back in that soil. It's a soil-borne disease. You cannot grow bananas back in that soil for 50 years, so it's very persistent. Once you have it, that's it for the current cultivars of bananas that we have. We don't have any resistant ones at the moment. So it was in the Northern Territory, and we thought that's a long way away from Tully. Well, it's right across the country. We thought, well, it'll never make it to us. You know, we're pretty safe. It's probably a normal farmer reaction to things. But then in 2015, it was found in our valley, just not far from where we are. So we started implementing biosecurity. We chose just to do some of the simple things first. So perimeter fencing, just to keep, we actually put up pig-proof fencing so to keep pigs out. Seeing TR4's a soil-borne disease, and they like feeding through the bananas and that sort of stuff. So when they come in there, they can easily pick up, you know, if there is disease there and walk it around. Also, the pigs, people hunt them in the area, so you know they'll come out of a night time and drive through your neighbour's property hunting pigs, come through your property hunting pigs, and you just don't know who's been through your property. So a big part of biosecurity is just like understanding who's been in your property and probably keeping them all out if you can, actually. So, and fencing's pretty easy to put up when you're not forced to do it and you're not under any sort of biosecurity protocols. So some of these things we found out are much easier done before you have to than you're actually made to. So that was a good lesson. Also, just restricted access to the farm through only a couple of points, and they were locked when we weren't there. There's a vehicle sanitising wheel dip there to come into the shed. You get into that area, there's no access to the farm at all. So that really locked the farm down. We split the farm. This is all prior to anything happening. So we split the farm up into different zones. So the farm as one zone, and that we said was clean. Keep it away from the public area. Keep any vehicles coming on and off there to a minimum, and keep them clean and sanitised. And then the shed became a transition zone between the public zone and the farming area. So further strengthened by sanitising foot baths and white gumboots worn inside the shed, and black gumboots on the farm. So you could segregate where people were, and you could tell if they were in, they knew if they were in the right place or not with what footwear they had. So this is all to restrict soil movement. Then June 2017, we got a couple of infected trees on our farm, and just turned the tables. So from us protecting our farm, knowing it's clean, then we had to actually, with biosecurity protocol, keep the infection on our farm. So everything reversed. So it was a chance for us to we already implemented a lot of biosecurity, but just to run a fine-tooth comb over it and just make sure it was actually going to stand up to the protocol. So bananas are a big employer of people. It's very, very labour intensive. So one of our first tasks was to inform our people what was going on. So we involved them at every step of the process. They knew exactly what was going on the whole time. That's empowered them and made them feel like they were part of the solution, because really they are a big part of what we do, and just having that engagement with them a lot more regular, it just improved all aspects of their work. So there was a big benefit to that as well. There's still a few things that we need to do that we hadn't covered off in our initial biosecurity, mainly because we didn't have to. But after finding infected plants on the farm, we still needed to build some infrastructure into the production plan. So this is a picture of our first initial infection. The black areas where there was infected plants. There was about a dozen plants there. By the protocol, you have to do a 10-metre ring around every plant, and the plants get all chopped up, put on the ground, urea all over the ground, covered in black plastic, vermin-proof fencing around every 10-metre ring, and obviously where there's more plants, that ring becomes bigger. And because we found a few plants in that initial detection, we decided to knock out, there's an area, a 40-acre area linked to that area there. We decided to knock the whole lot out. We said, well, there's a dozen plants there, we don't know where it's going to pop up next. We drive past it all, you drive up and down banana rows like every day of the week, so potentially it could be anywhere in that area. Knock the whole lot out. So, and in hindsight, that's probably the best thing we could have ever done, the best strategy we could have employed. Because in the 3 years since that initial infection, we've only had 2 isolated plants. So in the rest of our farm, we only got 2 10-metre rings that we don't farm. So to put that down to taking that big step straight away. So yeah, negatives. It could be, probably should have renamed that the challenges. Probably the cost of implementing biosecurity in both time and money. Like most agricultural businesses don't have, an excess amount of money or an excess amount of time to be able to put something in like that. So even the simple stuff, most people don't do it. So one of the other risks is you might be the only one doing it. Like it is, you are all competing for the same sort of dollar and market. So you're spending somewhere that someone else isn't. So that's an added cost to your business that someone else might not have. So positives or opportunities. You might be the only one doing it. That's a positive. If there is an infection out there and you're protected, and you're thinking about that, I reckon that's a pretty good positive. For us, being a big labour employer, staff engagement was huge. Like they found every plant that we've had infected our staff. So Biosecurity under the protocol actually walks our farm every month, but we'd already found the plants that they subsequently tested and found positive. So you can't probably put enough emphasis on that, the positives of that. And then even though we adopted biosecurity practices early, this didn't protect us from Panama, but it did put us in the right mindset to deal with an outbreak. So once it happened, it was just a matter of turn the tables. Considering we were clean, it just flipped like that, and we were dirty. So already had everything in place. It just sort of fell into place pretty much. Biosecurity is a lot about physical boundaries and procedures, but more than that, it's about the mindset and the mental resilience you need to survive, or that strength. So you got plenty of challenges out there, and sometimes it can take just a little one just to make it too hard sometimes. But if you're prepared for it, I think that you're in a lot better place to deal with it, and becomes a little bit more logical, and you can see your way past it. So just from our family, I'd like to thank everyone here for the opportunity to be able to speak, and I hope you got something out of that. Thank you.